Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a new season. This is the NGK SPARK Plug's ESPORTS Cup here on Race Room. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'll be your English commentator, not just for today, but throughout the season as well. It's always very exciting to get a new season off to a fantastic start here in Race Room, and this one is going to be just as good, if not better, than any other. We have a couple of races coming to you for this evening, and they're pretty fast and they're pretty furious as well. We'll get into more things in just a little while, but I do want to welcome everyone to the stream, not only on Race Room, but of course on NGK SPARK Plug's own social media as well. I certainly hope that you're going to be able to enjoy the proceedings that we have going on here today. We'll just dive straight into it then. Of course, these drivers competing for eventually the prize of 2 VIP tickets to the 24-hour race at the Nürburgring in the 2022 with entry to the SX Lounge. That is the top prize for this season. Second place is a €450 coupon for the simracing-store.com. And then for position number 3, they get one JBL Quantum 1 headset. So those are the prizes that they're going to be competing for, not only today, but of course once we get to that final round in a good handful of weeks' time. Don't worry, I will explain everything as we go on here. But these are going to be the drivers that are going to be competing here today in this particular round. Of course, there'll be different drivers in every round pretty much here. These are sort of preliminary qualifier races, so to speak, all into that final event in a month or two's time. So Julian Kunze, Peter Pilska, Ural Rosen, and Fielder, you got Sinian Gune, Wittvoet, all those names, and some of the names you'll be very, very familiar with if you are a fan of Race Room Esports. And of course, some other names that you might not know a little bit further down the field, looking to try and make their impact, maybe for the first time in Race Room Esports. So it's so those are the drivers that you'll see in this first round, at least at Dubai. An absolutely fantastic circuit. Here's a recap of the season calendar. Then, of course, we've had qualifier leaderboards coming into this one. So these guys haven't just been invited because they're fast drivers. No, they put in all the hard work in the leaderboard, the time attack qualifiers leading into this one. By the way, the leaderboard for Paul Ricard, which is round number 2 of this championship, is already active. So if you feel like you want to come and join these guys in fighting out there on circuit and trying to get that grand prize, then you for sure want to just try and put a couple of laps in to see if you're inside the top 32, and then you might be able to qualify for race number 2. You only need to finish inside of the top 4 in the race to get yourself qualified into that final race on the 14th of April. So you potentially might even need only do one race here. That would be the ideal situation. Drivers that qualify from these races into the final race are not valid to enter any other race in this championship. So the 4 that you'll see in the top 4 today, well, you won't see them until the final race is upon us. That's just the way things work here in this championship. Let's have a look at how things are going to work out here in terms of the schedule for today. We've gotten the stream start underway. That's not too much of a problem. We'll have qualifying start in around about 4 minutes time to set the grid for race number 1. Race number 1, of course, then we'll get that over and done with. Then we have race number 2, which will be a reverse grid based on the results of race 1 for the top 10 drivers. So the top 10 in the results of race 1 will get swapped around. So P10 will start P1, P9 will start P2, so on and so forth. To give us a little bit more excitement at the very end of the at the end of the day here. So that's what we have to look forward to here in the NGK SPARK Plug's Esports Cup. And well, before we get too into it, let's just have a look at where we are racing here today. This is a track guide for Dubai. Let's get straight into it then, shall we? It's a fantastic circuit here in the Middle East, down in towards turn number 1. This is a lap provided to us by multiple Race Room Esports champion Moritz Lohner. And, well, he's going to try and take us around this circuit in his AMG Mercedes GT3. It's the same car that all of these competitors will be using here today, so this will be sort of a representative fast lap time that these drivers will have to try and set. In towards the latter part of the first sector, though, through turn 6 and 7 already, there's plenty of overtaking opportunities at this racetrack. Maybe not so much through the first sector, however, as Moritz winds his way through that long turn number 9 now. And important to get a good exit onto this back straight, because at the end of this there's a big braking zone, and that's going to be one of your better chances to try and make an overtaking move here today. But in normal running, you want to keep to this left hand side here and try and get the big wide arc into turn number 10 and swell power off the corner. The car tends to slide out a little bit through there. Even with the traction control, you do need to be a little bit careful as you feed yourself through turn number 11 and then into the next relatively heavy braking zone into turn 12. So if you see moves not done into turn 10, then you might see them done in towards turn number 12, and then you get yourself on this run down the hill slightly in towards that final sector. Turn number 14, you can have just a little look into here as Moritz gets on the brakes into there. You can sling one down the inside for sure. Whether or not it's a high likelihood move to have happen is a different issue, as he'll get himself through turn 15 now, trying to climb up all over those curves, trying to maximize the track limits here at the Dubai Autodrome, and now into the final corner of turn number 16, across those starting grid spots and across the line for a lap of Dubai. That was what a lap of Dubai Autodrome looks like from the perspective of Moritz Lohner. Of course, he won't be taking part here today in this one. It's just a representative lap time from someone who tends to be quite quick here on Race Room. But we've just got a couple of moments here left in practice before we get ourselves into qualifying mode. Drivers just getting themselves their last set of preparations done. You see some practice starts actually going on in towards pit lane as well, just to make sure that they know where the right clutch biting point is and how much throttle they need to apply on the start, just to try and get away as fast as possible. Of course, you see it in the real world as well, and there's no reason why you can't see it here in sim racing as well. Just 5 seconds left remaining then, and we'll get into race number 1 here today. I certainly can't wait for it. It's always a very nice situation when you have a new season of a new championship just like this one. And we'll get ourselves all started here in just a handful of moments' time for qualifying, of course. For race number 1, of course, race number 2's grid is decided based on the reverse grid for the top 10 from race number 1. So you can see in typical Race Room Esports fashion, the swarming off of pit lane for all these drivers to try and get their outlap done, get those tires and get those tire temperatures and tire pressures up into the right operating window before we go and see some fast laps. Someone already off the circuit there just decided to bail out of things. They'll have to take the tow back towards the pit lane, and we'll get ourselves well, they'll get themselves back out there on an out lap. But the thing is, you know, these qualifying sessions, these open qualifying sessions, shall we say, can be a little bit interesting with regards to how these drivers run in these situations, because sometimes you do want friends out there. Sometimes you want a couple of cars ahead of you to try and get the slipstream off of on your fast lap, but at the same time, you don't want a slow car ahead of you that's going to slow you up through the slower speed corners. So that's one thing that you just simply have to keep in mind. You got to find yourself a pretty good spot around relatively similar pace drivers to be able to go fast here in the open qualifying. And of course, some of these drivers will have esports teams that they usually work with. Of course, everyone's in the same livery here today with the NGK SPARK Plugs, but sort of outside of this championship, there will be teams and allegiances going on between the drivers that might help them in this sort of situation, not only in qualifying, but when it comes to the race as well. Coming towards the sort of second half of the outlap here, drivers continuing to just try and find themselves a little bit of space to run in. And and we'll get ourselves all set and ready for racing here in race number 1 in just about 8 minutes time. But we've got to see these qualifying times come through just yet to see how the grid will stack up for race number 1. Across the start-finish line, the front of the train goes to start their first flying laps here today. I do have to clarify, I made a little bit of a misstatement earlier on with regards to the qualification procedure coming into that final race. The best 32 drivers with the most points out of all 4 races will qualify for the final. So that's the situation there. It was not how I said it previous with the top 4 in each of the events going through. It is the top 32 in all 4 races. However, you're not a guaranteed qualifier for all 4 races in this championship because you have to continue through those leaderboards. So if you're completely off the pace in race 2, but you're still on it in race 1, then you might not be able to compete in race 2 to try and get those crucial points to score inside of the top 32 to get into that final race where all of the prizes are divvied out. Just having a look at a few of these drivers here. Julian Kunze currently leads them around for the moment here on this first fast qualifying lap. We can see him out there right now, and well, let's go and ride on board with him as he tries to negotiate this Dubai Autodrome circuit. Of course, everyone in this Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, it is. It's a fantastic car. It's one of the more stable GT3 machines as well. The drivers tend to like it for that reason. But for Julian Kunze, purple through Sector 1, purple through Sector 2. The lap's looking pretty tidy at the moment for Julian Kunze. And, well, a little bit of a slide off the corner there. Not going to worry him too much. Sometimes when you're pushing really hard, it can be a little bit on edge as he winds his way through this 3rd sector and out of the final corner to come across the line to set the first of his flying laps. So let's see what the benchmark's going to be. Julian Kunze, provisional pole position, but immediately gets upset by Petr Pilska and Alita Dinya, who go faster at the very top of the order. And, well, we'll see the rest of those lap times start to come through right now. You see Marcelo Pereza, excuse me. I do struggle sometimes with the pronunciation of names, so you'll just have to bear with me at the moment, as he's currently P18 and sliding further back through the field. Dinya still at the very top in terms of provisional qualifying by just shy of half a tenth of a second, actually. It's very, very close at the top of the order here. Pilska and Carton, they're separated by 0.03 of a second, so very, very close thing at the top of qualifying here for this one. But those were just the first few laps. Those were the banker laps, the laps that you can fall back on to then go chasing for more time later on in this session. So for the 26 drivers that have set times so far, we've got 27 connected to the server, so it's not like anyone's had a major problem on their first qualifying lap here. Most people have been able to get one in, so that bodes well for the final 4.5 minutes of this session, where the drivers can just push that little bit more on their second flying laps and get a little bit better of a lap time as a result. Here's Luciano Wittvoet. He's more like 0.3 of a second off through the first sector there, so that's not exactly ideal. So not looking like a fantastic lap from Luciano Wittvoet, at least compared to the fastest lap time out there. 10th place at the moment for the Dutch driver. And of course, Wittvoet is a name that would be familiar to you if you are a viewer of other esports competitions here on Race Room as well. So certainly one of the strong contenders in this event. Would expect it to be just a little bit higher than 10th place at the moment, but he's still got time left in this session to be able to improve on his qualifying performance. He's already gone his personal best through Sector 2. So Sector 3, if he's able to hook it up quite well and deal with the traffic coming off of the final corner, it might still be a good lap time from Wittvoet, and it is. So P6 for Luciano Wittvoet. And, well, he's still half a second off of the leader, but that is good progress now, way better than the 10th place that he previously had. For the moment, 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in this session for these drivers to be able to get their laps done. Here is the driver of Petr Pilska, Pliska, as, again, trouble with the pronunciation. Big drift in towards the right-hander, though. That's not very ideal. Of course, it's not the fastest way to round the corner in the drift, but you certainly get style points for it, I suppose. but Pliska coming through the exit of, or rather towards the end of sector number 1 now, and well, we'll see what the lap time is going to be. It's a decent enough sector 1, but we'll have to see if there's any improvement in sector 2 and 3 to promote him up any higher than 3rd place on the starting grid right now for race number 1. Have a look and see if there's any updates a little bit further down the field. Carton is coming to the end of an out lap right now, so that will be a start of a flying lap for Leonard Carton. Julian Kutzer heads his way across the line, I think, to start another fast lap as well. So in the next 2 minutes or so, you'll see another flurry of lap times come through as drivers attempt to improve on their qualifying position. Looking further down the order, we've got Rasmus Salo, the Finnish driver. He's gone green and personal best through sector 1 and 2, so this is looking like a tidy lap for the Finn. He just needs to get that sector 3 complete, and potentially he might be able to promote himself inside of the top 10. Alita Denye, who here is your provisional pole position sitter at the moment. The German going a little bit slower through sector 1 that last time by just over a 1/10 of a second, so this lap not looking as good as his initial lap, and he was slow through sector 2 as well. So it doesn't look like this is going to be an improvement in terms of lap time for Alita Denye. Leonard Carton is out there also trying to improve his time. That's the driver in P4 at the moment. Sinyan Guinea, Petr Pliska, Philip Drees, Luciano Wittvoet, they've all taken the tow back to pit lane, so they won't be able to get another lap in. So P2, P3, P5, P6 on the pit lane. Carton in P4, of course, still out there, still trying to improve, but 0.2 of a second off in sector 1, not ideal. Denye might just be safe as far as pole position is concerned here in race number 1. That was a better sector 2 from Leonard Carton, but that huge loss through sector 1 is really going to be hurting at this point. So unless he has an absolutely mega sector 3, then its pole position is unfortunately not going to happen for Leonard Carton. But we'll watch his lap through, however, to see how he does, and well, he decides to take the tow back to the pit lane, so that is for sure not going to be an improvement there, as we look a little bit further down the order to see if there's any drivers on good laps, and well, the results will show a little bit premature here, as it does tend to do here in Race Room, but Alita Denye currently pole position with Sinyan Guinea in P2. Petr Pilska will start in P3 with Leonard Carton in P4. Philip Drees will start in P5 with Julian Kunze P6. Luciano Wittvoet starts P7, and Pigancho in P8. Spence Rakas in P9, and Sebastian Ree will line up in 10th place today. You can see the rest of those runners, at least down towards the top 20 at the very bottom of your screen, as you see that starting to scroll by now. Bo Dixon, the British driver, in P21, further down the order, and well, there was no lap set by Lucas Vollering at the very back of the field, so he'll have to start at the very back of the field as a result. Daniel Burker also down the field as well, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to work his way back up through these cars and try and get in a good points-paying position. So now the gridding procedure is underway here at the Dubai Autodrome for the first race of the season here in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP. It's fantastic to get things going here, and so, well, let's see what the racing is like here in this championship, because the qualifying, pretty intriguing, but the racing has the potential to be so much more exciting, and I am incredibly stoked to see how this one turns out. You can see the top of the screen, that's the minimum time that we have remaining, or rather the maximum time that we have remaining before we get the green flag procedure here. So here we go then. This is the first round, first race of the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP. The red lights will shine and they will hold for the signal to go racing for a new season. Daniel Parvin has already gotten himself a drive-through penalty for a false start, for jumping the start as they storm their way down in towards turn number 1. Alita Denye still leads, but it's Philip Drees and Petr Pilska that are fighting it out for P2 as it's 3 wide through that corner as Drees tries to drive around the outside, as Carton also looking to try and get himself involved in that one as well through the snaking first sector. Denye's been able to get away away well, but Pilska is able to retake the position for P2 off of Philip Drace. But Drace is certainly not happy about that. We've got a major incident in the background. Who is that falling back through the order? It was Luciano Vitvo with a major incident at the start of this race. He gets cycled all the way back from a top 10 down into P28 here today. That is not what you want to see at the start of one of these races. There's yet more fighting going on, by the way. Leonard Carton, Julian Kunze, or rather Sanyan Gune, are fighting it out there as well. So Carton falling back a little bit. He was trying to challenge up inside of the top 3 in the first couple of corners of this race, but it seems like he's gotten swamped a little bit now, as Roberto Pagancho also is looking pretty aggressive at this stage of the race as well. It's a pretty active first lap here at Dubai, all things considered. There's yet more scrapping going on behind as well. Ben Farkas and Peter Daniel, Yuval Rusin heading his way down the inside there. Driver's right-hand side, able to gain the position up into P8 today. So a very, very exciting opening couple of minutes here. Further behind, Alexander Grunwald trying to hold off Peter Daniel. And you've got Ville Crevi, the Finnish driver, looking to dive his way down the inside. Ville Crevi trying to crack open the inside. He's got the position done on one. He might even get the position done on another as well. Ville Crevi has gotten 2 passes done in basically 2 corners. Here's the send on the inside from Grunwald, though. He's not going to be overtaken that easily as he tries the challenge coming out of the final corner across the start-finish line with a spinner in the background. Someone's had a big problem coming out of the final corner. It might be, could it be Daniel Burke? I'm not entirely sure. There was someone down on towards the pit lane as well. It's hard to keep track of here with everyone in the same livery, I will admit, but yeah, some dramas there coming out of the final corner. Unfortunately for everyone here, we won't be able to get any replays today. It's not as easy as it looks here, but again, we've almost had a whole race full of action already, and we've only got a couple of minutes under our belts here in race number 1 at Dubai Autodrome. Elita Dinya, to recap, those still leads from Petr Pliska, from Philip Drace, then Sinyan Gune is 4th place, and then Julian Kunze resides in 5th. Things have calmed down slightly at the very front of the field. I know the risk in saying that, however. I hope I don't put the curse of the commentator on it, but the front 3 have been able to break away by just over a second back to Sinyan Gune. So those guys perhaps looking to work together to try and put the rest of the field in their dust. Looking back, we got Pagancho sending one down the inside of Carton. And that's an easy pass done. I think he's just about cleared. Yep, Pagancho is through up into 6th place, but Carton can just sit in his slipstream now, down on this long run into the next braking zone. He's going to look to the inside here, and he's going to slot one down and in. That's a good response from the German driver over the Italian that's, well, just passed him a couple of corners ago. So this circuit does seem to promote some fantastic racing. Remember, also, everyone is in open setups as well. There's no fixed setup for this one. So even though they are in the same car, they can, of course, change around the setup to their liking. So that is an interesting element here in this one. As further back, you've got 3 wide down in towards turn number 1. Falkas, Crevi, Grunwald, all involved in this one. Someone's gone off, though. That's Pagancho. Pagancho's had a big issue through turn number 1 with a good couple of cars. I saw someone else out into the runoff as well, but Pagancho losing a load of positions there. Down into P16 now. The battle continues on ahead, side by side, by the way. Nico Cernil looking to try and fight for positions at this early stage, trying to claw his way through the field. He's almost just about has a 10th place there. He has to fight about it with Benz Fracas, though. Fracas able to keep himself ahead for now. Sebastian Ree is 3rd in line in this fight, and he's going to stick one down the inside of Cernil here as well. There's so much action right now. It's absolutely crazy. Bo Dixon now looking on the driver's right-hand side, our left-hand side from the camera's point of view, to try and get one down the inside of Sebastian Ree now. So every time you have to go on the offensive here, you're also at the risk of having to try try and defend from positions behind as well, because you're caught out of line. Has Bo Dixon got this pass complete, however, looking to try and go around the outside. Can't quite get things done just yet. Reese with a slight advantage there on the inside, but it does become the outside for this right-hand hairpin. A little bit of a shot to the back bumper, but Bo Dixon is through. A little bit of fan out there back in the pack. Everyone able to keep themselves on circuit. Rasmus Salo now looking in that number 8 car to go around the outside of Sebastian Reed. That's how quickly you go from offense to defense here at this circuit. And Salo continuing with that outside line. I think Vollering almost got into the back of him there, a little bit deeper in the train. Now looking back, Joyce Blurker trying to get an angle on the inside, but he turns Vollering. Vollering is around out of the final corner. That one's going to be looked at by the stewards for sure, as Blurker went for an opportunistic move and spun his compatriot there. And now Vollering is heading his way further down the field. This mid-pack has been absolutely crazy so far in this race. It's the guys at the very front that have had it quiet most of this race. But this mid-pack, the in and around P10, has been absolute chaos. Right on board here with Sebastian Reed for a little bit. We've got 13 minutes, 20 seconds left remaining. We're not at the halfway point of this race just yet. It feels like, though, like I said, we've had a whole race's worth of action already. But how does Sebastian Reed negotiate this situation, knowing how chaotic the race has been so far? Does he still continue to take risks, or does he try to sit back a little bit and let the field try and sort itself out? That's the question that you have to be asking. They've sort of spread themselves out a little bit here down in towards the turn 10 hairpin, but I wouldn't be surprised if the action starts back up again in quite short order. Looking at the front of the field here is Alita Digne. He's been able to keep Peter Piska at bay for now, but Philip Drace is also in that 3-car pack. Those guys have gotten themselves about 2 seconds of an advantage back to the Turkish driver of Sinan Güney. So Güney in a little bit of no man's land at the moment. He's not able to keep up with the front 3. But see, he's not entirely alone out there on circuit. He does have Julian Kunze behind him, but Kunze is going to be wanting to go forward pretty quickly at this stage as well, because he was challenging for those top positions early on with a fantastic start, but a relatively poor rest of the first lap caused him to fall back through the order somewhat. Having a look then further back through the order, we've got Peter Daniel and Alexander Grunfeld running relatively close together here. The Czech driver and the Austrian are looking to do battle here potentially. They're a little bit too far away to be able to do that for the moment, but it's certainly one of those possibilities in the second half of this race that something might happen here. But something's happening further back though. Oh no, we've got another car around. That is Blurker. Blurker had perhaps a little bit of contact with someone there. Just a huge fan out at the very back of the field as drivers try to avoid that car slow in the middle of the circuit. But Joyce Blurker back to P21 now. Not ideal. I think that happened in and around the whole situation we have right now with Bo Dixon, Sebastian Ree, Rasmus Salo, this sort of grouping going on here as well, as Ree almost getting into the back bumper of Dixon through that turn 10 right-hand hairpin. We are getting towards the halfway stage of this race right now. So first half chaotic. What does the second half have to offer here in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP? Alita Digne has been really comfortable at the very front of the field. Piska hasn't really been applying any pressure at all. Philip Drace also similar attitude for him. He's just been hanging back in third place, just watching the race go on, just running consistent laps. It's this mid-pack that's been giving us all the action so far and all the drama with cars making contact and spinning around in front of traffic. Here we go then, across the start-finish line. Are there going to be moves being made in towards turn number 1? I get the feeling there are. as you see the defensive moves all the way down towards the pit wall. Bo Dixon trying to cover off the inside here. Sebastian Ricard has no option but to look the long way around. It becomes the inside for the next turn though, but the advantage switches oh so often here, especially through the first sector. But once you get to turn 6, the inside probably the better place to be in this situation. But look at the run around the outside that Sebastian Ricard, and look at that, that's Rasmus Salo down the inside of both of them at the end of the first sector. That's a fantastic opportunistic move for the Finnish driver to get it done on both, and now all Dixon and Ricard are doing is slowing each other up and allowing the opportunity for drivers behind to get a piece of this one, as Carton is on the outside looking in. Ricard and Dixon are still going wheel to wheel down the back straight now towards the hairpin of turn 10. Dixon's going to fall back in line here, going to look for another opportunity, this time around the outside at the hairpin, looking to go as late as possible on the brakes to be able to get enough of an overlap and then get the inside for turn 11, but not quite able to maintain the overlap required. He's still going to go for the move though into turn 12 now. Looking for the cutback off the corner, looking for the speed. Not quite going to get it. Turn 14, another big overtaking opportunity at this racetrack, and now Bo Dixon has to be looking behind because it's Leonard Carton that's bearing down on him, swinging to the outside through turn 14. And, well, can he get anything done here? Not quite. A big whack of oversteer. Still has an overlap through the final corner, though. So this is looking a little bit more realistic for Carton, but going to back out of the, well, not the final corner, but coming into the final corner now. He's still going to back out of things, though, and look to try to fight another day. And we've got about 8 minutes to go now. It's the situation with Bo Dixon, Leonard Carton, one of many out there on circuit at the moment, because Alexander Grunwald and Petter Daniel are now pretty close. Here we go. There's the time between them, 2 to 3 tenths of a second between the Austrian and the Czech driver. And we've also got Ben Farkas in behind this one from Hungary as well. You can see on the left-hand side there, the driver that's sort of indented compared to everyone else. That's the driver that we're focusing on with the cameras right now. So that's an easy way for you to try and keep track of who's who and who we're looking at, because yes, I know everyone's in a similar livery. You can also tell the difference by the fact that they have slightly different color trim, and you can see the slightly different color wing mirrors as well. So that's another way to try and tell the difference between these drivers here today. Also, we do have another race coming up, so we'll see how that one turns out. But for Alexander Grunwald, Petter Daniel, the battle for P number 8 out on circuit for the moment. I am seeing those front couple of drivers relatively close, but they haven't really been looking for moves at any point over the course of this race. So I will jump to them if I do see them getting a little bit too close for comfort and starting to try and fight with each other. But for now, there's not really that much point in focusing at the very front of the field when all the action is happening down here at the bottom end of the top 10, and of course outside of the top 10 as well. Because all of these points do matter, remember. It's the top 32 in points at the end of the 4 events that will get themselves qualified through into the final event of the season for those prizes for the top 3. So that's the situation there. It's it's certainly one of those things that's can get pretty sketchy sometimes as well when you try a first couple of times to try and get yourself qualified into that, and then it just doesn't work. You start becoming a little bit more stressed, which is why I expect to see these drivers become a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this season, as they know they are running out of chances to get themselves a healthy amount of points to be able to qualify inside of that top 32. If you finish consistently inside the top 5, however, maybe you have to worry a little bit less about qualifying. But yeah, that's the situation that we have here at the moment. Sebastian Ricard, Rasmus Salo, those guys have sort of split themselves away from the rest of the pack at the moment. This is the battle for P12. Salo getting very, very close, within 0.2 of a second into the braking zone for turn 10, but not able to make any sort of move happen at this moment in time. You do need to be a little bit more calculated with regards to moves here. You can't just try and sling one down the inside and try and make it work, because this racetrack does promote the side-by-side action, and you might end up wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door with another driver for what feels like half a lap, and all of a sudden you've lost so much time to not only cars ahead, but cars behind that are trying to get themselves involved in your battle as well. So that's why you do have to be a bit careful with regards to overtakes here. It has promoted some fantastic racing. We've got less than 5 minutes to go now. Salo wide through the left-handers there, preferring to go all up over the curbs to try and get the maximum out of the track limits possible. I'm going to jump back to the front couple of cars though, because Elita Dinya, Petr Pliska, Filip Drejs, they've been, like I said, relatively quiet so far, but I don't know if that's going to last too long, especially as we get closer and closer into those final couple of laps here. For Elita Dinya, he's been leading since the very, very start of this race. I'll give you a breakdown of how the points sort of work out in these sorts of races. There's points for qualifying as well, remember. So the qualifying, the qualifying points potentially might factor into any close positions at the end there. 40 points goes to the race winner, with 34 going second place, 30 going to third. So with that sort of separation in points at the very top of the order here, it's certainly worth your while to just get that one more step on the podium to try and give yourself a good boost in points. It's not a very close distribution up here. It's quite wide. So for Pliska, he does have to keep that in mind. He also has to keep in mind, though, is that any move he tries to pull off Dinya here, Filip Drejs will be there, ready and waiting to pick up the pieces, just in case it all goes wrong. Oh, they make contact, though. Pliska with a bit of a problem, and a big door shunt from Filip Drejs behind. Not exactly sure what that was about for Pliska, but Drejs now all over the back of him. Dinya has been able to get himself a bit of breathing room as a result, has pulled out a second advantage in the race lead. But those are the mistakes that will cost you dear in a championship such as this one. Drejs still filed in behind, trying to tuck up inside the slipstream, looking towards the inside now, can't quite get things done there. As well, it's, the time is winding down now. There's not a lot of laps to go here in this race, so you do have to get things done, and done very, very quickly indeed. We will take a look at Filip Drejs. There he is on the right-hand side of your screen at his sim rig at home. Remember, everyone here today is racing from their sim rigs at home, and some drivers might have, well, quite wildly different equipment to each other as well. Some might have a direct drive wheel with fancy triple screens and a motion rig or something, and well, some drivers might just be on a relatively basic wheel on a single screen. But everyone, of course, no matter what their setup is welcome in a championship such as this one. But for Filip Drejs, he has a task ahead of him. He has, well, the potential to at least get himself up into P2 here. That is the goal for Drejs. I think Dinya has been able to pull out just that little bit too much of a gap at this stage to be able to, for Drejs to even think about going for the race win at the moment, because one, he has to try and get past Pliska first, and then has to try and find so much more time, more than a second, in the next lap or two to go. And yeah, that's simply not going to happen. But look at him deep on the brakes there through the left. Drejs is really trying to maximize the potential that's in that car, of course. These guys do have open setups, so some drivers might even tune their car just so that it's a little bit better in the latter part of the race than it is at the very start with regards to the tyre wear. Not that there's much tyre wear in a 20-minute event, but can be a slight problem, especially if you overheat the tyres a little bit too much. But coming on towards the final lap then, what's the situation for Drejs? What's the situation for Pliska, who currently resides in P2 at the moment? He's going to have to try and defend pretty hard in this one to have really any chance at holding on to that P2. So we'll continue to watch this one run through. Dinya has no worries, it seems, at the very front. Still has that second, if not more, of an advantage at the front. So he's, I think, for him, it's plain sailing all the way to the checkered flag potentially. But for P2, anything but. You can see Drace, another little bit of a correction as he goes for a little bit of a slide through turn 9. But now out onto that back straight, he's lost a little bit too much time, I think, from that slide to be able to make anything happen into turn 10. He needs to go late on the brakes into here, try and catch up the gap as much as is possible, but half a second back closes in just that little bit. It's going to be have to be a very, very last-ditch move for Drace to be able to make this one happen. Pliska might just have 1 foot on that second step of the podium, unless Drace has something in the bag through this final sector. We will just have to wait and see. Hitting their way through on the exit of turn 13 now, in towards turn number 14, which is, again, another relatively big braking zone. But again, Drace is just not close enough to be able to get things done into there. So I think Pliska will be able to hold on to this as he winds his way through the little S's section and through and down in towards the final corner. But the man of the moment, though, pole position and a race win. Maximum points from qualifying, maximum points for race number 1. Alita Dinya heads his way across the line to take the first race win in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP. Fantastic stuff from the German, and well, we'll wait to see the rest of the runners head their way across the line, because look at this big fight between Bo Dixon and Luciano Vitvo through the final corner. We might get to see a photo finish as these guys head their way across the line. Vitvo is ahead by just the slimmest of margins as he heads his way across the line, and well, we'll get confirmation of that. Yes, Luciano Vitvo remains P15 in this situation. That was a close run thing there down in the mid-pack. That's what we like to see. We would have preferred to see it for P2, but for P15 is still very much appreciated. Checkered flag out there on circuit as drivers wind themselves down and potentially get themselves prepared for the second race. And of course, we will have a reverse grid for the second race based on the results of this first race for the top 10. So that is going to be Bens Farkas actually starting on pole position for race number 2. Then it's Peter Daniel in P2. We've got Alexander Grunwald starting in P3. But there's the race results. Alita Dinya, maximum points from race number 1. That is how you want to start off a championship. Alita Dinya taking the prize, but we got Pliska second place. He's done pretty well as well. Philip Drace hanging on in there for a 3rd place. Indian Guinea didn't talk much about him actually in the race, but 4th place for him. Julian Kunz at P5. And you've got Yuval Rusan in P6, Vila Klevi P7, Grunwald P8, it's Daniel P9, and Bens Farkas in P10. Remember, top 10 reverse grid, so the top 10 will be inverted for the grid of the second race. So the drivers that unfortunately missed out on benefiting from the reverse grid, Nico Cernil, Risvastin Ri, Rasmus Salo, they'll have to start where they are. And everyone behind them will have to as well, but we'll get ourselves back into the gridding procedure once again. So we are moving things on relatively quickly here in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP, and we're gridding for race number 2 already. So no break for us, no break really for the drivers. They're going to be straight into a potentially yet another chaotic race start here in this one. And well, if it's as chaotic as the previous event, then maybe I won't have a voice at the end of the event and the end of proceedings here today. But we'll get ourselves ready to go in just a handful of moments' time, maximum 20 seconds. They have to get the gridding process done, and then we'll get ourselves underway for race number 2 of the championship then here at the Dubai Autodrome. Reverse grid racing in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP is about to get itself underway. Race number 2 here at Dubai is underway. A good start from what looks like the second row there as drivers swarm their way down in towards turn number 1. Once again, this long run in towards the first turn. If you get yourself a good start off the grid, then potentially you can make things happen into turn number 1 as Bens Farkas maintains P2 with Yuval Rosen P3, trying to fight it out with Alexander Grunwald a little bit further back through the order there, and Philip Drace has been able to get himself through as well. Not as many dramas on the race start as we saw in race number 1, with cars spinning through this first sector. Everyone seems to have been able to get themselves away cleanly. No jump starts either. So that is very, very good to see. I think the drivers have gotten the aggression out of their system somewhat after that race number 1, and they're looking to try and make some good progress and keep themselves in the race for race number 2. Here's Sinyan Guinea as he finished 4th place in race number 1, and now he's trying to fight it out with Julian Kunze for P7 out there on circuit. So looking to try and get himself up the field as fast as possible, looking towards the very front of the field because we got a battle on potentially, almost, for P1 as Bens Farkas was looking down the inside of Peter Daniel. Peter Daniel was able to cover that one off, however, as we see the rest of these runners head their way through here. I think we had a bit of a problem back there as we see multiple instances of 3 wide. We see cars spun as well. I think it was Julian Kunze. It was Julian Kunze that had a spin through the hairpin, and now he cycled all the way down into last place here in this 20-minute race number 2. Here's the battle for the race lead, though. Bens Farkas is going for it, trying to crack open the inside of Peter Daniel. There's bits of contact between the two, but Peter Daniel's able to hold on, and Farkas will just have to wait to try to fight another day. This is much more fighting that we at the very front of the field, at least, than we saw in race number 1. It's absolutely great to see, and if we can maintain this through the rest of the 18 minutes we have to run, then, well, we might get ourselves a grandstand finish. Here's another little look from Bens Farkas down the inside at turn number 1 this time. Peter Daniel bending it off quite well, to be fair. Yuval Rusen's looking to try and get his nose involved in this one if he can as well. They're absolutely level through the first sector now, and Peter Daniel, though, he's able to slot himself ahead again. And, well, Rusen, there was no opportunity for him, at least in that instance, but there is now, as he looks to try and go and get the pass done up into P2. Bens Farkas immediately from offense to defense. Rusen not able to get it done, though, as they wind themselves out of turn number 9, down the back straight they go. This is the slipstream section at this circuit to try and open up that opportunity to make something happen into turn 10, as there's the move to the inside, as it's Grunwald and Philip Drees. They're going wheel to wheel. There's fighting for the top 3 as well. There's so many places to look. Peter Daniel still somehow at the very front of this one as well. He's been doing an incredible job to hold on to P1 despite the immense amount of pressure that's being piled onto his rear, as Grunwald now trying to get the overlap on Philip Drees coming into this final sector. And, well, Peter Pilska also involved in this as well, so he's looking to try and get a little bit further inside that top 6. It's the top 6 train, by the way. It's just these drivers, but if they fight like this any longer, then potentially we might see other third parties get themselves involved, as Pilska gets himself a whole bunch of oversteer, and it gives the speed back to Grunwald, who does slot himself ahead and up into a top 5 position. I get the feeling every lap is going to be like this at the moment. It's great, but Peter Daniel, he does lose the race lead. In fact, that's Bens Farkas now up into the race lead, so he did eventually get that done. And now Rosen slings one down the inside. A big move, but he's overcooked it. Surely he has. He pushes out into the runoff. That was never going to work from the driver from Israel. And now he's back into P4. He might even have himself a bit of a slowdown penalty as well due to track limits for that. That was way too much speed in towards turn number 1. And there's the sends down the inside now from Peter Daniel, because Philip Drees, out of all of that, was able to gain a position up into 2nd place. It's not secure. Peter Daniel's still going to try and fight this one through turn 9. Differing lines being taken through. Drees has the speed coming off the corner. They're absolutely neck and neck down the back straight now. Who's going to get the draft off of Bens Farkas? I think it might be Drees, in fact, as he's towards that side of the circuit. He's going to help him a little bit with a couple of kilometers an hour extra down the straight into the next braking zone of turn 10. But my word, I'm not going to have a voice at the end of this. Let me tell you that. This has been crazy racing, and we still got about 15 minutes of it to go. Rosen now trying to recover from that bit of a blunder through turn number 1, and, well, gets the move done on Peter Pilska Of course, Pliska, he's done pretty well actually to get himself up into that position. Started more towards the back of the field here today, and again goes for the move down the inside. I don't think there's much that Yuval Rusin can really do about this one. Yep, he's just surrendered the position. So Pliska back up into 4th place now. So for the driver that finished 2nd in race number 1 and started in 8th place for race number 2 as a result of the reverse grid, well, it's been a pretty nice occasion for Pliska here in this one as he continues to try and get himself through. For those wondering about the current status of Alita Digne, who was your race 1 race winner, he's actually gone backwards 1 position, so he must have gotten caught up in something in that mid-pack in the early stages of this race to result in him being all the way back there. I have to wonder if he might have a little bit of damage to that car as well, that's sort of hindering his performance at this stage of the event. So as we continue on then, race number 2 action here in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP. Philip Grace and Ben Sarkis, they are the leading cars at the moment, and they've gotten themselves a decent gap now back to Peter Daniel, is standing at about a second between Drace and Daniel, so that's P2, P3. So that's overall going to be beneficial for the top 2, because they know that this driver right here, Petr Pliska, has been charging through the field like a madman, and they need all the time that they can get. They need the biggest buffer possible so that they can still remain in leading positions at the end of this race to score those decent amount of points. But Pliska, he's been exemplary today, and he's going to continue to try and work on that rear bumper and the rear wing of Peter Daniel, and I think the pass may just be a little imminent here for Peter Pliska, as he's potentially going to size up the move pretty soon. Of course, there's not a lot you can do through this section of the racetrack, but it's going to be potentially a little bit later on that the move might be a possibility. The front 2 are also getting similarly close as well. So let's look at them to see if there's a move down the inside from Drace on the race leader this time around, or is he going to stay in line and try and work together with Farkas? Well, that's completely out of the window. He sends it down the inside at turn number 1. Farkas is not going to fight that one too much. He's going to let Drace go through. Sometimes it's better to do that. It's sometimes pretty useless to have an extended side-by-side battle that you may feel like you're always going to lose. So you're going to lose a lot less time to cars behind if you just let that obviously faster car through and follow in the tyre tracks, to be in a sense, so that you're able to secure yourself from drivers behind. But drivers behind right now, Pliska and Daniel, well, the overtake has been done by Pliska. So Pliska up into 3rd place. This is a crazy, crazy performance right now from the Italian driver, excuse me. It's Pliska, the hard charger here today in race number 2. And, well, he has plenty of time left, actually, good to go for the top 2. We've got 11 minutes left. We've got more than half the race to go. So Pliska potentially might get himself, well, he's on the podium now. He might get himself P2, even the race win here, depending on which set of circumstances arise. So Drace and Farkas need to be a little bit worried, I feel, at this stage, because I don't think they were really expecting Pliska to be able to work his way through the field that quickly. And now they are in a pretty large amount of danger. Here's Leonard Carten further down through the fields. This is the battle for P5. Grunwald, Carten, Salo. We've got 3 involved in this one as well. A couple of the names that were very much involved in the thick of things in race 1, let's just say that. Gave us a lot of good action. Let's see if they're able to give it to us here in the final half of proceedings here today. Down towards turn number 1, Carten still keeping himself in line for now. Sometimes in the middle of these races, the drivers do tend to just sort of calm down just that little bit more, run in their own little positions, and make sure that that they have a plan going for the latter portions of this race. And, well, Carten with a little bit of a scruffy first sector there. allows Salo to close in just that little bit more. Remember, if you want to try and qualify for round number 2 of this championship, well, the leaderboard, Circuit Paul Ricard, is open. You can try and get yourself qualified. Just set a good enough lap time, and well, you can join us for one of these races. We'll be very much looking forward to having you. Here comes Salo again, looking at least briefly around the outside. But again, hasn't got the momentum to be able to get any of that done. It's sort of a show but no bite. Further back through the order, let's see what's going on back here. Sinin Gune and Mikhail Lapanek. Close on circuit, is down towards 0.2 of a second now, but look at the train ahead of them as Gune sends one. Absolutely sent it. Bits of contact. Lapanek back down the inside to try and get the position back, but whether or not he'll be successful, still unknown. He's got himself, I thought he almost had himself a little bit of an overlap there into the final turn, but nothing that he could work with. Further ahead, here comes the battle between Rasmus Salo and Leonard Carton. Salo squeaking himself ahead for now. He has got that position on lockdown, and now it's the drivers behind that potentially might have some things to say about each other. Leonard Carton, Sebastian Ricard. Like I said, they gave us a very big show in race number 1. Being slightly more muted here in race 2. I think what I said at the start of this race is pretty accurate. Everyone just sort of got the aggression and the nerves out of their system in that race number 1, and now we've had a little bit of a calmer affair in this second event, at least in terms of the incidents. Here we go, down the inside for Carton, at least a little bit of a look, trying to defend the position from Sebastian Ricard behind. He's not able to get any sort of progress there. Under 7 minutes to go here at the Dubai Autodrome for the first event of the NGK SPARK PLUG ESPORTS CUP. Having a look more towards the very front of the field, Pliska has now got himself right up behind Bence Farkas now. So this is looking pretty dangerous for Farkas. Has a very, very strong contender right behind him. That's certainly faster in clear air, but it's not always the pacing clear air that matters. It's how well you can attack, how well you can defend as well that judges your race results a little bit more. Continuing to close in, to close in, to close in. Not going to be close enough into T1 though. Continuing to apply a consistent amount of pressure onto the back of that driver in P2, Bence Farkas. The Hungarian trying to cover off all of these angles at the moment is so difficult to do, especially at a racetrack such as this, where there's a lot of places where someone can just stuff it down the inside and cause you a bit of a problem. For Pliska, the faster he gets this done, the better, because then that gives him the time to try to chase down Philip Grace, who's in the race lead at the moment. Little bit of weaving coming down the back straight, and well, here comes Pliska with the move. Hasn't slight overlap around the outside, but simply not enough to get any sort of progress around there. You'll continue to try and, well, hound the back of Bence Farkas. Farkas looking with that Mercedes big in his rear view and wing mirrors at the moment. Closer, closer. This might be the move. It's getting very, very close for comfort between these two, let me tell you that. Farkas is holding on by the skin of his teeth, but he has to hold on for another 4.5 minutes plus whatever it takes to complete the final lap as well. So it's going to be a lot of hard work here for Farkas to be able to hold on to this position. Pliska, he's got to get himself the good run out of the final corner to be able to make this one happen. Look at how close he's getting now. This is the best run he's had all race on Benz Farkas, and now he's going to look to the outside through turn number 1. We've seen this move done multiple times before. Pliska going for seconds. That's where he finished in race number 1, and he's got the position. Great move from the Italian, and now he has 4 minutes to try and chase a 2.5 second gap all the way up to Philip Grace. Can he do it? So that's the question. He's got a handful of laps to do it in, but 2.5 seconds, even for a driver as strong as Pliska, is very, very difficult indeed. I don't think Farkas is going to have much to say in terms of a response here. Yeah, he's already dropping a little bit of time to Pliska, even through the latter part of the first half of this lap. Further back, you still have scrapping, though, as that's Leonard Carton in P6, Luciano Vitvo P7, Rasmus Salo in P8 here today. Luciano Vitvo all the way to driver's right-hand side of the straight, as that is Salo looking to go the long way around at the hairpin. Again, it's one of the favoured moves, but not able to be completed this time, as now it's Sebastian Ree capitalising on Rasmus Salo's differing line through the corner, and now Sebastian Reed's able to take that position. So that's the risk always. We're trying to take that alternate line, take that outside to get the pass done. You slow yourself up, and then there are cars behind that can capitalize. Meanwhile, race 1 winner Elita Digne, he's on the back of this train, and so there's potentially a lot of points on the horizon for Digne here. If he's able to get these passes done in quick succession, then maybe this race 2 is gonna be less of a disaster for the German. Here we go then. This is the start of the second to last lap here. So 2 laps to go here at the Dubai Autodrome. Leonard Carton angling towards the inside on Peter Daniel back there. These battles will all be decided in these final 2 laps here. Oh, Carton having a bit of a problem, and now Luciano Vitvo breezes by and is able to take P6 away. I think Carton might have had himself a bit of a handling problem through the first sector there, and well, lost a lot of ground as a result. Peter Daniel, Luciano Vitvo, wheel to wheel, winding through turn number 9. Peter Daniel ahead by a car length down the back straights. Of course, they have 1 more lap to go after this one, so it's not going to be settled here on this lap. Peter Daniel trying to cover off all the moves. Luciano does have the angle towards the insides, though, of this turn 10 hairpin, but you have to swing it around the outside at turn 11 to be able to have any sort of chance of making that work. And inventive track limits there, I should say, as Luciano Vitvo continues to try and fight this one out. And, well, Leonard Carton now sticking his nose in where it perhaps doesn't belong and trying to gain those positions off of those drivers that have gone wheel to wheel, and he does. So Peter Daniel falling back a handful of places here. Now Carton is looking to go around the outside of Vitvo as well. This is the fantastic fighting that we saw in the mid-back. There's a little bit of contact. Carton almost being spun out by Peter Daniel, but someone has spun out in the background. That is Rasmus Salo. Careful with the rejoin. You don't want to come in front of traffic. And, well, he's been able to get it going. But here's the start of the final lap then. I don't think Pliska has enough in the tank to be able to, or at least enough pace to be able to catch up to Philip Drace and pass him in this final lap. The gap is simply too wide, I think. So I think Drace might have this race win on lockdown, but this mid-pack fight for P5 and back is still very much undecided amongst all of these drivers. They have been pretty crazy with the battling in not only this race, but of course in race number 1 as well. Here we go then, as they head their way through on this final lap. Here might be an attempt by Elite Digne to try and get past Sebastian Ree for P8. He's been able to find the inside line. That turn number 9 is on camber a little bit, so you can actually carry a lot more speed around the outside than you think to try and keep yourself in a battle such as this one. Digne still ahead marginally on the way into turn 10. Ree still has a chance of getting this one done. He does go for the opportunity, or at least a look, a show of the nose down the inside at the turn 10 hairpin, but nothing doing there. Let's have a look at the very front of the field. There's Philip Drace, who's going to be a very, very happy bunny at the end of this one with how this race has gone. Benefited from the reverse grid and has got himself up into the race lead and, well, leading on this final lap as well, potentially taking himself the race win. Everyone else behind, well, that's still slightly undecided here at this stage. As we'll see, there is Philip Drace heading his way through towards the final corner now. There is Philip Drace taking the race to win here at the Dubai Autodrome. Fantastic performance from Philip Drace, and he's just going to take a swig of his drink. Not all that much emotion from Philip there. But no doubt inside his own head he's going to be pretty happy about that one. Looking back through the fields though, we got the rest of the runners now heading their way through and across the line. Great stuff here in race 2 from everyone involved in this one. It's fantastic to see these guys able to put on a very, very good show, some decent racecraft going on as well. Of course, there's always going to be bits of contact here and there, but in the end, all seems to be pretty fair. Of course, the stewards will look at things after this race, but here's the official standings from race 2. Philip Drace, Peter Pliska, Bens Farkas, Alexander Grunwald, Luciano Wittvoets, Leonard Kartnen, Peter Daniel, Digne, Sebastian Ree, and Lucas Vollering are the top 10 finishers here today in this one. So fantastic to see those guys do well. Uval Rusten, P11, Ville Crevi in P12. A little bit further back through the order here. And, well, we can get ourselves the rest of the runners towards the very back. We had a couple of DNFs, Bo Dixon, Nico Schönel, and Jace Blocher are unfortunately not classified in this event here today. So we will have to wind things down here just a little bit. We will, of course, get ourselves our driver interviews here in just a handful of moments' time. But remember, this is just the first event here in the NGK SPARK PLUG ESPORTS CUP. We've had leaderboard number 1. We've had now race, or technically event number 1. Of course, 2 races in each event. And then, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be heading to Paul Ricard for the second race of the season. And the leaderboards for that, the time attack, is up now. So if you want to get yourself involved in that, well, you do want to get... you do want to try and sign up, try and get yourself a lap time in and see if you are indeed good enough to be able to compete here in this championship. But since we have things all over and done with here for this evening, we will get ourselves a chance to speak to a handful of drivers, and we'll speak to the winner of race number 2, shall we? So, Philip, if you can hear me, you can speak a few words just to make sure that our link is okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me as well?
Yep, I can hear you as well.
Perfect.
So yeah, that second race was relatively interesting for you there, Philip. It was pretty crazy to see you to see your staying power at the very front of the field there. It's fantastic that you're able to hold on despite the huge amount of pressure from drivers behind, particularly.
Yeah, it was quite nice. I mean, it went better than expected to get by these other guys after the reverse grid. And yeah, I mean, everything was quite nice. I had a little bit of lagging of straight line speed, so I had to make it work in the slower parts of the circuit to get the overtakes done. But yeah, after taking the lead, it was quite nice, managing the tires, enjoying myself, basically.
Yeah, well, it did look like you enjoyed yourself. You didn't have much of a reaction there at the very end of the race, though. You just sort of took a swig from your water bottle and just sort of was pretty chill about it. So, you know, the event it seemed to be relatively comfortable, relatively chill for you. Is that a positive thing to be taken out of this first round of the championship, knowing that you've gotten yourself a decent bunch of points right now to be able to carry on through into the latter rounds to make sure that you qualified for that final event?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a nice takeaway. I have to speed right now in this car, feel comfortable, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Next round will be at Paul Ricard, Circuit Paul Ricard. Is that a track that you feel confident at, or is it one that's going to be a bit of trouble for you?
To be honest, I haven't even driven it yet in race room, so let's see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. And of course, you know, everyone still has to qualify on the leaderboards into that event as well. Just to give us a little bit of perspective, how difficult is it for just a regular race room driver, not necessarily a good esports driver, but a regular race room driver to be able to qualify for one of these events? It's you know, because it is the top 32 in the end in the leaderboard that get themselves through. But just sort of how much preparation is required to be able to get that lap time in and make sure that you can actually race?
I think it's, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, probably 1 second between the first and 32nd driver, roughly. So, I mean, you can just try it out. Default setups are quite nice in race room. So basically I'm running default with some small changes. So you can just try it out. And I think, yeah, some hours in, you should be getting close into the top 33, I guess. I hope so, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's but yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you here, Philip, and we certainly wish you the best of luck in the latter rounds of the season, and hopefully you're able to get yourself into that final round and potentially compete for those prizes at the very end for the top 3.
Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. Then that was Philip Drace there, taking the race win here in race number 2. Of the proceedings here this evening, and we'll just have a look through and see if we can have a little bit of a chat to someone else here, as we will we'll of course have Alita Dinya. So we'll get Alita potentially to get himself unmuted and to get himself ready and waiting for our interview. Alita, it's again, it was a pretty exciting first race for you. You know, a very comfortable one as well, just like Philip's race win was in race 2. But it seems like in race 2, you seem to struggle. Just to take me through what happened there in the second race in particular.
Yeah, race 1 went basically perfectly, no problems at all. But race 2, at the start, there was quite some chaos, and I got tangled up in some of it and had a damaged suspension after the first lap, and that cost me about half a second to a second per lap after that. And well, I also lost some positions and had to fight back. So quite unlucky, but what you gonna do?
Yes, you know, sometimes those situations do happen. Unfortunately, in motorsports, you get caught up in something that's potentially not your fault. But at least that race 1 went well for you. It seemed like once you were able to get that pole position, and remember, you do get bonus points for pole position as well, so that's certainly going to help. You were just able to get away at the very front of the field, and all the chaos sort of happened behind you. So. So did that lull you into a sort of false sense of security in the second race, or was just sort of the second race just out of your control completely?
No, not really. I knew I was quite lucky with my quali lap. It was actually my PB, and I went into race 2 with a somewhat careful mindset. But yeah, things happen around you, and sometimes yeah, you can't do anything about them.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, it does happen in motorsports. We do have the second round at Paul Ricard. I asked Philip the same question. How optimistic are you heading into that second round? Is Paul Ricard a good track for you or not?
To be honest, I do like the layout, but I'm not a big fan of these let's call them parking lot tracks, where you basically only have some lines on the ground. But driving Paul Ricard is quite nice, just the track limits are a little bit annoying.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that one, because there are some drivers that might fall foul to those track limits in a couple of weeks' time. So it might be a point of contention. But thank you very much for joining us, Alita. Congratulations on the race 1 race win, and we certainly wish you the best of luck later on in the season.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. That was a little bit of a chat there to Alita Dinya, who's our race number 1 winner here today. We do have, in fact, we can get ourselves potentially in just a few moments our standings for the NGK Esports Championship at this stage of the competition. Remember, we just had these 2 races here today. So let's have a look then at our championship standings. They look a little bit like this currently. We've got Philip Drace tied first with Peter Pilsker. So that's fantastic to see things so close at the end of round number 1. Pilsker, of course, having a fantastic day here today as well. Attila Denia, well, we saw and spoke to him just a couple of moments ago. He resides in 3rd place at the moment. Alexander Grunwald, he's in 4th with Vens Farkas in 5th. In 5th, we've got Sinyan Gine in P6 with Peter Daniel P7. Yuval Rusin in P8 with Leonard Kartsin P9, and Julian Kunze rounds out the top 10 here today. So technically, if the season ended here, everyone will qualify. But of course, we need to get a couple of rounds in before we get a clear picture of who's going to be where with regards to the top 32 that then qualify themselves into the next stage of the championship. But yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic event here. Those are the standings at the end of race number 1, and well, let's just have a little bit of a reminder of what's going on next time out. So remember, leaderboard 2 is now open. So if you feel like you have the pace to set a fast enough time to compete here in this championship, you can qualify for the 2nd race. That's going to be from pretty much now until the 23rd of February, and then we'll have our 2nd race on the 3rd of March. So you simply don't want to miss that one. That's going to be at Circuit Paul Ricard, of course. Then we head to Imola, and then we head to the Moscow Raceway for race number 4. And then we get to our finale at the Nordschleife in the 14th of April. So that's going to be where all the prizes are given out. But at least for me here on the Racing Esports stream on the NGK SPARK PLUG's Esports Cup, that's going to have to be the end of things. I've been Connery Maddock. I've been your English commentator for today. But don't go away, because, well, in a couple of weeks' time, we have round number 2 of the NGK Esports Cup, and you simply don't want to miss it from Paul Ricard. But for now, bye-bye.